Rep Radio, an Emory production. Since 2009, our goal has been simple. We support, promote, engage, and inspire the arts community by igniting the ghost light that shines on the stages of the up-and-coming, the unsung heroes, the brilliant writers, and the dynamic designers. Our podcast breaks the fourth wall to give you an inside look at the plays and the players. Stay tuned. Rep Radio is on the air. Today on the podcast, Johnnie Hobbs Jr. stops by to talk about Thurgood. Written by George Stevens Jr. and directed by Jarrell L. Henderson at Walnut Street Theater Independent Studio on 3. Here is my interview with Johnnie Hobbs Jr. for Thurgood. Welcome to Rep Radio. I'm your host, Darnell Radford, and today I swear to God, if the powers that be at Walnut are listening, please put me on the payroll here because I am in this building all the time. I've been here so many times that I've never gotten a check from Walnut Street Theater, but it would be really nice if we could find a place. Put me on the payroll. But I'm here at Walnut Street Theater. I'm in one of the rehearsal spaces, and I'm here with the Johnnie Hobbs Jr. Johnnie, welcome back to Rep Radio.
Thank you, sir. Nice to be back.
It's great to have you. It's
Yes.
always great to chat with you.
Right.
I think we spoke last time about Oleana.
Oleana, yes.
Yeah. And we're here now to talk about Thurgood. So we're kind of in the run now.
We are.
Got it stride, I hope.
Yes. Striding,
Yes.
in the process of striding.
And so we're here to just kind of explore the piece itself and how are you faring in it. So how's it going?
It's going well. It's quite a piece of work. It's extremely challenging.
Mm-hmm.
I've several years ago, in 2008, I believe, I had the chance to do a one-man show. Did Paul Robeson
Mm-hmm.
at the University of the Arts. I had a chance to do that, and it was challenging as well. However, I was younger, and I'm older now, so a lot of things are being called upon. My physicality, my ability to be in shape, stamina, my sense of detail, and it's extremely challenging. And working with Jarrell on the show, we discovered collectively that it's sort of like the show itself is like a call to arms. It's like, wake up, listen. It's a conversation that we're having with you, and we want you to be part of the conversation. We want you to respond back.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like almost like a call and response if it wants to be. People have a different response to the show from my perspective. Somebody could be laughing, somebody could be crying, and both responses are valid.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good theater when it's filled with all kinds of response and people are getting something out of it. So I'm churning along, and it's a lot of heavy lifting. It's a great deal of memorization, to be honest with you, very much so. And it has not been easy. It's been extremely challenging for me, and I'm continuing. But I accept the challenge because I like to work hard.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing substitutes hard work. And to learn about Thurgood, I'm not sure if I'm getting ahead of you by talking about this.
Please go.
But just learning about Thurgood, that man's resolve, his sense of resolve, his sense of getting stuff done, it just amazes me. And to be honest with you, coming up as a young boy in North Philadelphia and as a young man in North Philadelphia, and I'm 70 years old. And to be honest with you, I knew of Thurgood Marshall, but he sort of almost like worked behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot written about him. I'm reading, Juan Williams' book about his life and the things that happened to him. But he sort of almost like worked all of that stuff behind it. He wasn't like out there. He wasn't, not taking anything from Martin, but Martin obviously was out there. But Thurgood had a different sort of position.
Yeah.
He was sort of almost like behind the scenes working all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And his resolve and his ability, the way he just went down south and he dealt with those people in those courtrooms. They stuck guns in his face. They threatened him. he had all kinds of. I mean, we go over a piece in the show where he's taken to an area where he's pretty not much ready to be hung and lynched, and somehow it changes. But I mean, it happened. It's all true. So I mean, his resolve and his ability to get things done, and his sense of dedication, his stubbornness, and he's a very colorful character. There's just a lot of things going on with him. But I didn't know about much about him until I really did the play, and I'm reading some stuff, and I'm continuing to read. But we learned so much just by going through the work, by understanding his physicality, by understanding how he responds to things, his sense of right and wrong. It's just amazing. It's just an amazing thing. So he's given me much more than I'm giving him.
Yeah. There is this mindset, particularly with black people, that these rules weren't really set for us.
Yeah, right.
So
right.
There is this apathy in there. There's a whole lot of my vote doesn't count. I don't think this matters. And I remember thinking about this whole thing with Thurgood. It was saying, like, there's always this sort of soundbite where it's like, you should be a doctor.
Yeah.
Doctor's a good job. You would have had a good job as a doctor. But really understanding the law and how the law actually pertains to everyone, even though it wasn't written specifically with us in mind.
Right.
The interpretation of that law is actually where the true strength is.
Right.
So we think about that, and I really wish someone would have driven that home.
I know.
When I was going through.
I mean, I feel the same way. But in many instances, my political implications really kind of began to sort of get stronger after I graduated from high school. I graduated from high school in 1966. And it was just something about that. I knew of Thurgood Marshall. I knew he was doing some things, but I really couldn't follow him. I really didn't follow him.
He was Solicitor General.
He was Solicitor General at that time, and I really didn't follow him as full as I think I probably could have. But I was just beginning to become interested in politics. I had thought one time of joining the Black Panther. I thought one time of just being a little bit more active and vocally connected to things that were happening around me. And of course, after coming up when Kennedy was assassinated and going through the streets and seeing people crying and understanding how that sort of played on you as well, and then obviously King in '68. So I mean, I was really just becoming a little bit more vocal about how I felt about things happening around me.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about that time. My father was probably 3. And my mother was 2 years old.
2 years old.
Yeah, you met each other at that time.
It's amazing.
Kind of like how the world was in the 60s. I almost hate when people say, I want to go back to the good old days. And I'm like, good old days for who?
Yeah, good old days.
Let's be more specific about these good old days, because
good old days sounds like good lyrics in a song, but
they
really don't really apply to the things that we were doing. I didn't particularly remember people being good old days and happy about all that stuff happening.
I think it's probably more justified to say, I remember good times. We'll talk about moments in history where life was good for you or for the people around you, where progress was being made, where you started thinking about it. Because when you think about, in terms of our visibility, black visibility didn't really kick in until like the late 70s, 80s. When they were like, sure, we'll put them in sitcoms and see what happens.
Right. But I'm thinking oftentimes, too, about, I mean, I was born right in the middle of North Philly on Yuba Street between 19th and 20th and Bergson Norris. And my street was a haven. It was not the ghetto. And sometimes even see kids say now, well, that's very ghetto. But I grew up in what we call the ghetto. But when I think about my street, the people were friendly. Everybody knew each other. Everybody talked to each other. People would call each other down the street, on the phone and say, how you doing? Could your son come in? My name was Brother. Could Brother come and do a chore for me? Could he run to the store for me? I mean, it was some things that were happening relative to community and to people just being connected that we don't have today. And
Yeah.
so I kind of missed that on some level. And I didn't realize I missed it until it's gone.
Yeah.
So.
And you don't realize until later on how much effort your parents put into sort of shielding you and protecting you from what was going on in the outside world.
Absolutely. We would go down south oftentimes from Philadelphia down to North Carolina. We would leave early in the morning and chicken in the box and everything. And reason being is because we weren't stopping too often. And my parents never told us that.
Yeah.
They were protecting us for that. And all this time, through all of this, Thurgood Marshall was working. He was doing some stuff behind the scenes. He was manipulating something. I understand he really knew how to get under people's skin.
Yeah.
I understand he was a man who could really kind of knurl into you. And that we're trying to capture that to some degree with the show in terms of just his presence and his sense of being in the space and connected to the space and that kind of thing. So all that time that I was growing up, Thurgood Marshall was working his butt off and really trying to make the world a better place for me to live.
Yeah. Are there moments in the piece that you enjoy performing the most?
Yeah. I guess performing the most, there's just towards the end when that piece that we do about Let America Be America Again, that's Langston Hughes' poetry. It just touches me.
Yeah.
It just touches me. And then there's another place in the play where we're talking about where where Thurgood Marshall is talking about the kids who will the kids in the schools in South Carolina is taking this time. Negro children will have to suffer in those what they call those doghouse schools. What is also quite challenging is when we bring the babies out.
Yeah.
You have a black baby and a white baby. And we're questioning these, and all of that is factual.
Yeah.
All of that is those kids, those black kids who were really sort of into those white kids and those white babies. And so that is just very moving for me and very emotional. You know, and I go to a deeper place with that every night. It's not easy.
That moment in the piece, I immediately started thinking about the power of marketing.
Yes.
And how marketing has had the, ability to shape and change minds.
Yes.
So it was like, how is it that you have this beautiful brown skin and your family are all like you and your friends are all like you, but you still want
self-hate. I know.
A white doll,
I know.
and you
I
still
know.
want to do all the things that the
I
white
know.
kids do because we just didn't. There wasn't enough representation.
That's right.
Of us.
That's right. That's
so,
right. That's right.
when we see it, there are things that I look up when I think about. I guess this was the 70s and the 80s when the series What's Happening was
Sure.
on.
Sure.
And
Sure.
there is a character. There was a character who Roger Thomas.
Oh yeah.
Played by,
Oh yeah.
I think it was Ernest Thomas. Was
I
his name?
think something like that.
So he looks like this character from a current series called The Good Place.
Okay.
So he looks just like,
He looks
they
like
look very much the same, like it's a clone. And I always think about like that moment and how that piece was very much indicative of
Interesting.
of the family
Interesting.
trying to get ahead and just
Interesting.
sort of,
Interesting.
and how the mother was very much like, you don't go out into the world and sort of show out because the world is looking for an opportunity to kind of hold you down.
Oh yes.
So
oh yes.
if you are out here acting a fool and you know better,
Oh yes.
then you're going to get set
But you know,
right.
the other thing that really hits me, I mean, at a certain age, I think, when I was coming up and looking at TV, where ultimately I think the psychology that was playing on me was that I was really understanding that there was this intrinsic value to whiteness, to things that are white.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Ozzie and Harriet and Leave It to Beaver and their white picket fences, and that in some ways, and I must be honest about this, I wanted to be like them.
Yeah.
I wanted to be white or in that same place. And that's the same thing with these dolls. And I think that somewhere in my head, in my time growing up, I think I wanted to be in that world.
Yeah.
The intrinsic value of that.
Now,
It's amazing.
So I haven't been there in a while, but I remember when the National Museum of American Jewish History opened.
Yes.
The new building on Fifth
Yeah,
and Market.
right.
They had a whole exhibit about Hollywood, and it talked about basically this fabrication of the American dream.
Okay.
So all of these films that created this, picket white fence, this
Yes,
sort of lifestyle,
yes.
was fabricated.
Yes.
It was like people aren't actually living like this, but
Right.
it is something we're all aspiring to. So when we call that American dream, it was created by Hollywood. And so we all have this mindset. And now, can you just imagine, we have resource now where technology can educate us further if we
Sure,
can't afford
sure,
education.
sure.
We can connect to people who can give us insight, much better than we could, before we had this technology. But we just had this idea that everybody's living like that.
That's right.
I mean, everybody
That's
has
right.
a collie that can save you from a well, right?
I believed it.
And it's like,
I believed it.
don't you wish you had one
I
too?
believed
And it's
it.
like, how are they the only ones in this town?
I believed it. I believed it.
You start thinking about all that.
Yes.
And it's just crazy how that interpretation of what we were seeing just cut out the, everything that wasn't so ideal
Yeah,
of us
yeah,
to see that
yeah.
that people were doing to other people,
Yeah, yeah.
and treating other people.
And I
as
remember
less than.
so vividly, as a young boy, my mother one evening or one afternoon, sitting us down, my sister and I, and teaching us for the first time the Negro National Anthem.
Yeah.
I had never heard it before, and I was a young kid, but my mother actually taught us the Negro National Anthem.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was a sense of allegiance or something that came over me, but I began to I really appreciated her to this day for teaching me that.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like I belonged to something. Something was mine, because when I was coming up, we had Negro History Week. I mean, it only lasted for a few days.
Yeah.
Now, of course, now it's longer. But
Yeah.
And Ralph Bunch was the person that we looked at, in Negro History Week. So I mean, it's just interesting that this stuff is starting to flood through me.
Mhm.
So growth is a very interesting thing.
Yeah. So some notable cases of Thurgood Marshall, Brown versus Board of Education,
Yes.
Smith v. Allwright,
Yes.
and Shelley versus Kramer.
Yes.
It's amazing how many people don't really know of these.
Oh, I know. I mean, I think that's where the theater comes in. It's an educational thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, and so people leave wanting to know more. I mean, if they don't, obviously you can't leave as an expert, but they leave wanting to know more. I finished the play wanting to know more.
Yeah.
I may read something a little bit more. I may share something a little bit more. And that's where the value of the theater comes into play, in terms of developing a kind of a real communion in the communities that obviously allow people to sort of say, this is where I need to grow. This is what I need to know. But you're right. Those are Brown versus Board of Education, Smith v. Allwright were pivotal and very important aspects of growth and development educationally, and especially that Brown v. Board of Education, and getting that young man and getting Donald Gaines Murray into University of Maryland Law School, where they weren't accepting him at one point.
Yeah.
And he fought to get that man in that school. So it's the right choice, it's the right person, it's the right point in history. But you're right, people leave hopefully with a desire to know more than they did before.
Yeah.
So,
Because I once you're reminded of moments like that, you start thinking about these moments where you might have been cutting up in school one day,
Yep.
or you skip school, or you're like, man, I just don't want to be here. I'm like, do you know how hard it was
I know, man.
to get in here and to get an education and really process this? Like, there's so much knowledge here that if you let it pass you by, it's going to be really tough for you to get through. And it was like, even now there are teachers who are just exhausted, like they don't have the energy to be like, if you don't want to learn, I'm not going to force
Yeah, I
you.
know.
But it almost seems like that's not your response. You should be like, I'm going to start every class with Brown versus Board of Education. And I want you to point out how
Yep.
this thing you're taking for granted,
Yep.
like you in the back not paying attention to me right now, people fought for
People
this
fought for it.
opportunity
People bled for it.
to be
People's-
educated just
That's
like
right.
everybody else, because we know all through history, if you keep people ignorant, they will never rise up against you.
That's right.
because
Never. Right.
they don't realize
That
what
they have power.
what rights they have, what
Right,
power
right,
they
right,
have, and
right,
so
right,
on.
right.
So, yeah, it's,
No, I agree.
you know, I like how it touches on it just enough for you to be
Yep,
like, oh,
yep.
I got to take a note.
Yep, yep,
Let me
yep.
write that
yep,
down
yep, yep,
and
yep,
figure out those
yep,
things.
yep. That's why Jarrell's whole thing was call to action,
Yeah,
and that you can't. You have a responsibility to dream, but you also have a responsibility to be active
Mhm.
and activate yourself and do it now.
Yeah.
And don't wait for someone. Don't wait for someone to sort of define what success and beauty is to you. This is where you should be. So,
Yeah.
so.
Do you ever get do you get a chance to engage with the audience after this piece? Does anybody wait for you?
Yeah.
What have been
Yes.
some of the responses afterwards?
They're absolutely bowled over by the success of Thurgood Marshall, the man.
Mhm.
They're also bowled over by the quality of the show.
Yeah.
They feel very seemingly honored to meet me, that I've gone through that, and how do I get it all in
Mhm.
my head, and I continue to tell them that I'm still working at it. That is, is more than a notion.
How do you process an entire man's life and condense it into 85 minutes to memory? That is a feat.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you. I mean, I sometimes am amazed at myself, getting it. But I work at it. So when I leave here, I will read it
Yes.
before I go on. And so I just want to be as prepared as I can possibly be, and sharing as much as I possibly can. And thank the Walnut Street Theater for the opportunity of allowing me to do that.
Yeah.
So.
So you're in this, arguably political piece.
Sure.
Does it heighten your awareness of the politics of today, or were you always in tune with the politics of today? I guess over the last maybe
3
10,
years.
last 3 years. How many days has this nightmare been going on?
It certainly does heighten my perception of
Yeah.
the things that are going on around me, and I do make comparisons between what Thurgood is doing versus what he would be doing now if he was here, how he would be activated in all of this mishmash, what his responses would be to someone like Trump or someone like the politicians that are running. I mean, it certainly makes it very keen, and it helps me as an actor to keep a keen, perceptive antenna up there, because I have an opinion. I mean, my opinion is sort of in the work that I'm doing, and even though Thurgood Marshall was there, is filtered through me.
Yeah.
So all of that counts.
I love the moment in Peace where he talks about his relationship with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh, yes.
Because it almost feels like a frenemy kind of situation where he's just like,
Yeah.
I do
That's true.
understand what he's fighting for, I just don't agree with how he's fighting. But it doesn't mean if he gets into trouble, I'm not going to do
gonna be
everything
there.
I can do
Oh,
to help
absolutely.
him out. And
You're absolutely right.
so when that whole process is kind of presented to us, you're just like, wow.
I know. I wow every night with that, man.
Yeah,
'Cause
you're
that
like-
is because you just don't. Number one, you don't think that you're going to see that and expect it. And his response is it's right above the skin. It's so honest.
Yeah.
That he loves what Martin's doing, but he also feels that there is something he's not quite seeing.
Yeah.
And so he sort of wants to deepen the experience of Martin. So I think it's just a wonderful moment in the play. I don't think most people are expecting him to sort of kind of be, a little curt with Martin.
Yeah.
But he does, and I think it's wonderful.
I think it's interesting to be like, if you think about it, if you do sort of hover around people who are artistic and activistic at the same
Uh-huh.
time. So, you know,
Uh-huh.
he's got Langston Hughes on one
Sure,
side
sure,
and
sure.
Dr. Martin Luther King
Right.
Jr. on the other side, and you're just hearing all of this, and you're like, everybody has all this passion,
Yes.
and this passion, it goes far beyond personal interest.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
though, you know, your friends as people have their own faults as well, but
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
still
yeah.
thinking, beyond themselves to say, but this is, I'm talking about
Yeah, yeah.
everyone.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
trying, we're
yeah.
trying to bring everyone into this conversation. And then for him to have the law,
Yeah.
you know, factored into
I
all
know,
of this
and all
too.
that, and all that. I mean, I like the idea of the passion because I think that really comes through with all of those personalities, all those
Yeah.
personas. Passion is just rampant, you know, and people have opinions, and people are opinionated,
Mhm.
and sometimes, you know, those opinions just sort of filter into each other and create a philosophy. So I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. What do you hope? What do you hope an audience walks away from this experience with?
Well, I think fully, you know, connected to the idea that they just saw something that sort of gives a sense of a man who really put it out there, a man who really sort of had a philosophy, had a work ethic, had what's called an indefatigable work ethic to make himself available. He risked so much. Can we risk that much, you know,
Mhm.
and risk not to fail, but risk to be successful. Oftentimes we think of risking, we think of failing, but we're risking to be successful. And he was risking an awful lot, and we reap the value of that today,
Yeah.
relative to what he did.
Mhm.
So I would hope that an audience, particularly audience of color, because I'd like to see more of that, audience of color come and see him, and I'd like to see younger people too.
Yeah.
I'd like to see younger people see it. That's not always been the case, but you know, hopefully that will happen. So just to understand that there's someone before you, and there's someone you could read about, there's someone you could learn about, and you have a responsibility to also give back and contribute.
Yeah. A piece like this makes me so appreciative of the work that actors put into
Mhm.
everything they do on stage. And so I always think about, oh my God, like, you know, there's a part of me that wants to wait for you and say, oh my God, Johnny,
Oh,
what a
yeah.
great performance. But at the same time, I'm like, Johnny's probably tired. And Johnny don't want to be bothered with anybody right now in this moment. So what do you do? What do you do when you're not on stage in this, you know, with this piece in general? Like, how do you unwind and relax and prepare yourself to get back into this space again?
I try to relax. I'm not a relaxing kind of guy. I'm always doing something. The piece stays in my head. I've not really fully. It takes time to really sort of unconsciously get this. So what we want to get as actors, we want to get to an unconscious place.
Mhm.
Because the greatest acting in the world is unconscious.
Yeah.
But it takes time to get to that.
Yep.
It takes several runs to become unconscious, where you're not thinking about it so much. So I'm just trying to always think of ways to improve the craft, to improve the run, to I'm just constantly turned on to it, and I never really solidly get out of it unless I'm sleeping.
Mhm.
When I'm sleeping, I think I'm sort of in that place, but beyond that, when I wake up, it's on my mind.
I just had a moment of you waking up from a dream going, infatigable. Ooh, got it. Rolled right off the tongue with that one. Gotta get me a drink.
Yeah, right. I hope I'm making sense, but what I'm saying is that
Yeah.
it's a consistency. I mean, you want to develop a consistency. You want to be as professional as you possibly can. You want to understand what your sense of aesthetics are, what your sense of value is, what your sense of purpose is, and you want to put that into your work.
Mm-hmm.
You want to warm up before the show goes up, so you're prepared to take all of that stuff in, because there's a lot of heavy lifting out there on that stage.
Yeah.
It's a lot of heavy, and the worst thing, and what I always say before we go on the stage is, I'll be out in the deepest part of the river. I'll see you in the deepest part of the river, and that's where I am when I'm on that show. I'm in the deepest part of the river, surviving, staying afloat. Flailing sometimes, but at the same time, trying to deliver the message and really represent this man and represent the work that Darrell has done, because he's done some tremendous work with this play as well. Working with him, he's very smart, he's very innovative, he knows how to talk to actors, he's consistently being provocative with his questions and moving things around. And so we had a wonderful rehearsal process as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, you're still listening. Of course you're still listening. And you probably pulled in a couple of your friends to listen to this as well, because you should, as you should. But now is your opportunity to go to the website, Walnut Street Theater, that's theaterre.org, and get tickets to see Thurgood, which is on stage at the Independent Studio on 3. It is running through February 9th. And get more than one ticket, because theater is more fun with a +1.
Oh, that's great.
Come be a part of this conversation. It is the piece was written by George Stevens Jr., is directed by Darrell L. Henderson, is featuring the Johnnie Hobbs Jr. right here with me. It's always a pleasure to sit and talk with you. Come be a part of this conversation here. You may think you know, but you have no idea. And that's always a good phrase, because there's always something more you can learn.
That's right.
In the experience, in the life, and the trials and tribulations of people, and how they got to where they got, and how fortunate we are to be able to look back on the life and legacy of such a man as Thurgood Marshall. So, Johnnie, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me.
Always a pleasure.
I'm going to let you get into the headspace to become Thurgood. And thanks again for chatting with me. Truly a pleasure.
Thank you.
Rep Radio continues to be inspired by our community and listeners like you. We are proud to be an Emory production. Visit us online at em3ry.com. Ride with us. Emory is on the move.